Scheduled in the UTC time zone. Today's call will start shortly after 1500. Let's get started. Next slide, Danica. And the next one. And today is August 21st, Zcash Arborist Call. So the agenda for today, core stack updates, Zcash Foundation, Zebra, Electric Coin Company with Zcash D, core libraries, and Zale, CLI wallet. Zingo Labs with Zano and Zcash D deprecation. And then we go on to research and implementation updates. Kedit for ZSAs, Shielded Labs for the network sustainability mechanism, Shielded Labs and Electric Coin Company for Crosslink trailing finality layer, and then open announcements and discussion, which includes NU7 proposal with Shielded Labs. Next slide, please. So what are Arborist calls? Bi-weekly calls where Zcash protocol contributors convene to discuss upgrade timelines and process, protocol R&D efforts, design and implementation of new protocol features, and identify blockers and unresolved issues. Purpose: to make core Zcash development accessible for a wider set of participants and provide more transparency for the community at large. Who can participate? So anyone interested in learning about Zcash protocol development can register at zcasharborist.org. If you would like to suggest a topic for discussion or present an in-depth agenda item relevant to the Zcash protocol, email arboristcall@zfnd.org to request a slot. Other ways to get involved, Zcash community grants at zcashcommunitygrants.org, Zcash R&D Discord, Zcash community forum, and you can find these links by pointing your browser at zcasharborist.org. So let's start with core stack updates from Zcash Foundation.
Thank you, Alex. So since the last Arborist call, we've released Zebra 2.50 that deploys NU 6.1 on testnet. We've made a bunch of improvements to CI, including using Nextest and optimizing our Docker test builds. Updated Zebra's minimum required bust version to 1.89.0. Made the funding streams configurable on custom testnets and on regtest. Switched to using the Orchard batch validator from libRust Zcash and actually doing batch validation instead of using a maximum of 2 Orchard bundles per batch. Added Rust backtrace to our CI and just to the default cargo config. And then that's everything that's been merged. In flight, we have PRs that add a Z-Future variant to our network upgrade so that you can use the libRust Zcash Z-Future. Add some missing Orchard fields to get raw transaction, add vjoin split fields to get raw transaction. Those are just RPCs being filled in and completing Z get tree state. Backing up non-finalized blocks in the state cache directory so that when Zebra restarts, it can restore the non-finalized state from its previous run. Then just some other minor cleanup. That's been most of it. There's also a PR to switch to the sapling verifier from libRust Zcash to pre-generate the Coinbase transactions when using the get block template method with long polling. And I think that's most of it.
Thanks, Arya. Any questions for Arya? Great, let's move on to the next one. So core stack updates, ECC, Zcash D, core libraries, and Zale CLI wallet.
Hello, yes, sorry if I'm a little bit prepared for this. So let's see. We filed a draft PR for the protocol spec changes for NU 6.1. Let me have a look.
So I can.
Okay, so
give,
oh right, yes, you're here, Chris.
If you want.
Yes, carry on. Yeah, that's fine.
So the major work that we've been undertaking for the last couple of weeks has been getting in additional changes to the Zcash script crate for P2SH support. Alongside of that, we're essentially now back working on working towards the Zale Alpha. In service of that, just yesterday, I did some work to update Zano to the latest Zebra release and the latest Libra Zcash crate releases, and so we're propagating that through the stack. We have so Strad has created a draft PR to the zips repository for the specification of the pieces of T format. Let's see, there's a bunch of stuff scattered across other pieces of the stack. We have merged new functionality for confirmations policies into Zcash client backend to allow the flexibility that we need for Zale to be able to, well, for both Zale and Zashi to be able to allow for the low conf and zero conf shielding that and transfers that we need to be able to reproduce the functionality that exists in the Zcash wallet. Yeah, we've done a bunch of other work on sort of planning out how to support P2SH more broadly in the Zcash ecosystem, learning from the various Bitcoin specs for P2SH handling. There are many, but we've drilled down and determined a subset of that functionality that we're focused on. So yeah, that's there's other stuff in our history here, but I think that's the high level important stuff. So our priorities going forward here are continuing the work on P2SH support in service of making the NU 6.1 mainnet release. So the keyholder orgs still need to do P2SH address setup processes for the lockbox disbursement addresses, and that's been what we've been doing the P2SH research on Bitcoin for, is so that we can make sure that whatever we support is also usable via Ledger and Keystone. So looking at how Ledger and Keystone do P2SH and making sure that our key generation, which is the important bit, fits into what the existing hardware wallets will be able to easily support based upon their Bitcoin P2SH functionality. And then we've got essentially 3 remaining issues for to get through to get out the Zale Alpha. A little bit more work on zlist unspent, integration of the Zcash wallet import changes, and then updates to ZView transaction. I think that everything else is more or less in place with existing PRs for the changes we wanted to get in for config and so forth. So I think that's it.
Yeah. One thing that I found interesting was that a meeting we had on comparing different approaches to formalizing crosslink.
Oh, the other thing that we've done is we have merged Kedit's Halo 2 PRs. So the review on those is completed, and we've resumed moving forward on getting the ZSA PRs to Orchard merged. So Strad and I did some review on that a couple of days ago, and we have more work to do there.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions for Chris or ECC in general? Great.
No, Chris forgot a lot of work he did on Lightline protocol canonical files for Zano, Light Wallet D, and anything using gRPC, and sending PRs to all the corresponding places, so everything is tidy up now going forward. and helped a bunch of people on, like, for example, myself, in landing like trying to land a feature on Libra Zcash, and also send a bunch of did a bunch of reviews on Zeno, and meetings with the Zeno folks on the API. So yeah, you were forgetting about stuff you did.
I also was forgetting about we've finished review and merged PRs from the Maya folks to add up return functionality to the Zcash primitives transaction builder so that they can embed the information that they need in transparent transactions for however whatever they're doing with that they need to put transparent data on chain and are using op return to do that. And so now the Zcash primitive transaction builder has that functionality. And I'm sure I'm forgetting something that Brad has done as well in this.
Yeah. Well, I did some work to support our grant application. Let's see. There was also a hotfix for Zcash keys to fix a bug in transparent secret key encoding. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers almost everything.
Yeah, I think that the full release of the Libra Zcash stack was before the last Arborist call, and so I think we've already covered that.
Yeah, there was just that hotfix after the last call.
Great. Thank you, Chris, Starama, and Paku with the assist there. So let's go on to Zingo Labs. Is anyone here to provide an update? So,
I think I am. Yes, I am. We are completing the chain index API for consumption by Zale and to fully support the non-finalized state, which will be important for Crosslink. The non-finalized state support, we've been working this week on tracking all or providing APIs that track all the non-best chains. We're probably a week away from finishing the respec grant, which is our grant that covers this work. And we're sort of bottlenecked and on linear progress on that grant. So we've also started working on a re-architecture of the core code with some code quality upgrades that we think are going to make it much more hackable in the near future. And we also have work going forward on Block Explorer RPCs. So yeah, I think that wraps up Zino. Thanks for the Zebra update, Chris.
Any questions for Zal? Awesome, thank you. Zcash deprecation updates, ZCC, ZF, Single Labs, Paku.
Okay. Yeah, okay. The update has been kind of like intertwined on the previous updates, but on a large scheme of things, like the priorities right now are, I'm leaving the that link for the note taker in the chat. People can go there and look at just one green square that says like Sale MVP, and you will see that it has a bunch of boxes there. And the priorities are actually working towards wrapping those things, as Chris said, wrapping up like Block Explorer. Zingo folks are working in parallel on a bunch of stuff, like the chain index is one thing, which is a huge refactor that has been like coordinated through this API calls that we've been having like every Monday since a while between ECC and Zeno folks. And then there are the Block Explorer APIs. We currently have a testnet Block Explorer running Zebra, but in a kind of hacky way. the real work is being finalized by Zingo Labs, which will have all the RPCs needed for other block explorers to switch to the new stack, and that's actually in progress as well. One of the priorities that we're handling, and then also some changes to the compact block protocol to accommodate better transparent data, and fixing a lot of things in terms of privacy, side effects, and whatnot. Long to explain. So those are what we're working on, and we're I want to just say a huge kudos to the Zebra team, that they're like jumping and helping out, and also like big kudos to Alfredo, because every time like somebody asks, oh, could somebody help on this, like Alfredo is, oh, I'll take a look. So big kudos to him and to Gustavo and DC that are working on the Docker and stuff for the shipping this Z3 thing when the alpha time comes. There's a lot of collaboration there, and yeah, a lot of work that is sometimes invisible and really tedious, like CI stuff. So kudos to them.
Awesome. Questions, comments for Paku?
Just a comment on that DAG. I notice it has all of the NU7 stuff as a dependency of required functionality for Zcash wallet replacement. I guess that's not actually the case. So all of the graph that is kind of connected on the bottom left is not actually a dependency.
Well, that's not.
I mean, some of it might be, but I don't think setting the activation height for NU7 is the dependency for Zcash wallet replacement.
Oh yeah, that there's definitely some inaccuracies there then.
Yeah,
but yeah, the functionality that we need for NU7 is needs to be in the Zcash wallet. But NU7 itself is not a blocker.
Exactly. Yes. In fact, it can't be a blocker because it's the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we should clean that up.
I will do that.
Yeah, we should have a NU7 wallet ready node that everything feeds into.
Exactly. Yeah.
How often does it re-render? Like, is it daily or?
It's every 2 hours.
Oh, that's more often than I thought.
Yeah. Oh, that is something I did in the last couple of weeks. Is I actually fixed some problems with the rendering, so that we're now using kind of meaningless CI. It's, well, not meaningless, but CI work that means that that we're now using GitHub Pages artifacts for doing that rendering, and are not storing a million ancient versions in Git history of the rendered.
I had a really superficial idea this morning when I was looking at the DAG. Like, it would be nice to have like intermediate snapshots, so we could kind of animate the DAG like progressing over time sometime in the future. It'd be cool.
One can actually do that to a degree using the target issue functionality, because you can just specify any issue, and the other thing that's fun is to render with closed issues visible, because then you get like then you get the massive tree.
That would be beautiful.
Of everything that's been done in the history of Zcash.
I mean, all of the information. So the structure of the graph might change because the dependencies change, but usually they're just corrections. And so you can still see the history of when tickets were closed. So you could kind of do that animation without storing historical graphs.
Alfredo has his hand up.
Yeah, so in addition to all that, I want to say that Conrado upgraded the spreadsheet with the RPC methods for Zcash deprecation. We are trying to find out what missing functionality we had in Zebra. Conrado took the time to actually upgrade that. I think that's get reflected in the Zcash website as well.
Oh,
So
cool,
yeah.
cool. I think it's actually cross-reference on with some kind of iframe, is it? Or, but thank you, Corrado, for doing that.
There is actually something I wanted to raise about that. I hope this doesn't end up being too contentious. We're implementing get transaction, and so there's a bunch of kind of just incorrect fields in that because they have been implemented in Zcash D in a way that doesn't take into account shielded transactions at all. So they're just kind of incorrect. And I wanted to talk about what the policy should be when we have a situation like that. So how
Okay.
far should we go in terms of bug for bug compatibility when actually it's just clearly returning wrong information?
Okay. Should we do that now or later in the meeting or offline?
We don't have to do it now. Let's get through the meeting first and then raise that
No,
as a
thank you
topic
for
at the
bringing
end.
that up.
Okay.
I'll take notes and we'll bring it up later. Like, thank you, Derek.
Yeah, we can come back to that at the end. Great. So anything else on Zcash deprecation for right this second?
No, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Parker. Research and implementation updates. Kenneth on Zcash shielded assets.
Hi everyone. So yeah, we have a few updates over the past month. So as I think Chris mentioned in the ECC update, we did get our Halo 2 PR merged in the last few weeks, and that's like with the full support for ZSA modification, like all the ZSA modifications needed for Halo 2. There's also supporting changes to support those changes in Orchard, which is also an open PR, which I think Derama has approved, but I think it's waiting for a second review, second or third review before it gets merged in. So that's also
correct.
good. Yeah, so that's great on the Halo 2 front. Besides that, on the zips, we had recently been working with the zip editors on changes to the sig hash to allow some versioning in the signatures and so on. So I noticed that that's recently been merged. So that's on the zip side. These zip changes, so we have in the process of making those changes along with the changes to the encoding of the issuance authorization signature and issuance validating key in the transaction format. So we've been making those changes throughout the stack. At present, it's done in the test vectors, the Python reference implementation, and it's close to being done in Orchard. So that's where we are at, and then like we'll move on to serialization in Libra Zcash, and then the consensus changes in Zebra for this. Besides that, on Orchard, we did some code simplifications recently, and yeah, I think we were waiting to get a sketch of a different approach for like implementing the bundle that was based on discussion we'd had with the ECC. Yeah, I think like Chris also mentioned, they've been working on that recently. So
yeah, so I can give a bit of an update on that.
okay.
Essentially, Strad and I looked at that this last week and decided that we are effectively content with the changes since we initially discussed this, because the major change was that previously there had been types from Zcash node encryption that were being essentially revealed in the bundle type that we didn't think was appropriate, but you've since modified that type to use the I think you called it like Orchard primitive or something like that trait. That
Right.
that sort of we're basically ready to move forward with, as soon as you believe that Orchard PR is ready for review, it's still marked as draft, but once you mark it as ready for review, then we're ready to move forward with the rest of the review on that. And there may be additional API changes that we want to make once we get that PR in, but right now we just want to, sort of get it in as soon as we can get it fully reviewed, which, that's going to take some time because I think there are something like 30,000 lines of code changes in addition to 20,000 lines of verification key. But even despite its size, there's a lot of it that's relatively straightforward. So we'll hopefully be moving forward on that in between the other stuff that we have to get done in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, that's great to hear. That I'll pass that on to the team, and we'll let you know. We'll like basically make it not draft once we are happy with it should be soon though. Yeah, I'll pass that on.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, so on that's Orchard. Then on Libra Zcash, I think we completed the catch up to upstream, basically like the PCZT changes. There may be few more changes that have happened since then. That I'm not sure if we are like up to like actual main, but we've gotten a lot closer, and we've made like a large bunch of those changes. So at some point soon, we'll probably be discussing that with the ECC as well, again on like what implementation changes were needed for ZSAs to come, like the PCZTs and ZSAs, how they interact, and we'll like get when we discuss with them, we'll get to see if there's anything that they have in mind that we need to update. That's Libra Zcash. On Zebra, we are done or mostly done, I'm not sure, with the catching up to the like upstream version 2.4.2, which is I think a version or so behind the 2.5.0, which Arya mentioned they've released. Our branch will work with, I think, everything needed for ZSAs except the state management bit, which means like the finalization will not be working among other things. So yeah, the state management is also done to a decent extent, but it's in a separate branch that I think we are still like making some changes to before we push that as well. That's Zebra. And yeah, we have our transaction tool as well to generate the V6 transactions. We've pretty much just like been keeping it up to date with our version of Zebra with all the changes we've been making there. And yeah, on the side, we've been improving the CI for like deployment and stuff. So yeah, that's the main, that's the update.
Any questions for Kedit or Vivek? Awesome. Thank you very much.
Was then Alfredo? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so yesterday we had a meeting with DC and Chris Narigom, and we were kind of talking about how to implement some of the changes needed for shielded assets in Zcash client backend. And yeah, we are starting to, in a high level, seeing that we are going to need to use edit forks, maybe try to figure out the transaction tools you guys created. And we need to build a plan because it seems like a pretty decently big project. So we were wondering if we could get someone from Kedit to coordinate and work on that, some of the Kedit developers.
Yeah, definitely. We'll that sounds good. This is, you said, on Zcash client backend?
Yeah,
Yes.
so the idea here is that so Zcash client backend is where we will need to have this is wallet support, right? And so in order to get wallet support into Zale and into all of the other wallets that depend on Zcash client backend, what I was talking about with Conrado yesterday, with Alfredo yesterday, was the possibility of doing sort of a top-down sketch, probably behind a config flag and feature flag of a propose ZSA issuance API and then an API that from the proposal can generate PCZT for ZSA issuance, and then plumb the handling of that PCZT through to the rest of the PCZT workflow. So there'll be there's a whole pile of work to be done here, but I think that if we sort of start at the propose ZSA issuance level, and then sort of step downward, then there will be a bunch of discovery of changes that need to be made to the sort of ephemeral proposal data structures, changes that need to be made to PCZTs. That will probably go into a PCZT v2 or PCZT v3. So Strad, like I said, he's just defined the PCZT v1 structure in a zip. And the P2SH support changes will we'll probably do PCZT v2, which is just P2SH, and then PCZT v3 will likely be expand that with ZSAs and the rest of the stuff that's needed for NU7. So I'd be happy to get on a call where we can try to coordinate better what all needs to be done there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll pass that on as well, and we'll see who's like best placed with like the background for this, that we can work on this, like coordinate on this for. Yeah, I'll check with them, and like we'll reach out to you guys and let you know.
Thanks,
Paku, did you want to say something?
Yes. I think there was a post from last December from Taylor Hornby about proposing a CSA UX challenge. And I think it will be an interesting input for folks having these meetings and coming around with the tooling that will be needed to succeed in this UX challenge that Taylor is proposing. So I left the link on the chat with that forum thread, because it's an interesting way of like designing this inner parts or this components from desirable outcomes like there are there. So just a refresher. Probably you've seen it, but there's a lot going on. So.
Okay, Strad just noted in the chat also that I was wrong about what PCZTV2 is. That PCZTV2 is needed for it is V6 transaction support, so that'll be the ZSAs and Frost and so forth.
Alfredo?
Yeah, so we don't know the details yet, but the general idea is kind of we are going to be launching this into a protocol, but nobody can use it. So in order for wallets to use a shielded asset, all this middle work needs to be done. And that's kind of the idea, to create the bridge to, use it.
Yeah, makes sense. Like I think we've made the basic way to generate transactions, but that's like definitely steps away from the whole like wallet support. So yeah, we'll see how we can bridge from like what we have with our transaction tool and this. So yeah, we'll get on the meeting and we'll
all that is what we need to figure out.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else on the subject for right now? Cool. Thank you, Vivek. And just amazing cooperation and coordination between teams. Like, thank you very much. It's all moving forward really, really nicely. On to research and implementation updates. Shielded Labs Network Sustainability Mechanism.
Hi. So for the NSM, last week I have updated the zip 233 PR. it is rebased and updated for the latest Libra Zcash PR that was merged, I think, 1 or 2 weeks ago, and it is ready and waiting for review. Also, I have addressed the comments for the Zcash test vectors PR 101, and this is also ready for review. And that's it from my side.
Any estimate on getting
can-
yeah, go ahead.
I just did the search for 233 in the zips repository, and I don't see a PR labeled with zip 233. So can you please make sure that the title of the PR contains?
Yeah,
the
it is.
zip-
It is. It contains 233 in the name. I will post a link here for the PR.
Any additional comments or questions?
Just a comment on timing on getting those reviewed, if possible.
We can
The zip PRC.
Yep.
Yeah, I still can't see it.
Yeah, can you provide that link?
Yes. Not sure if everyone get my messages, or should I post again to everyone?
I got them both. It went to hosts and panelists.
This is the Zcash test vectors PR, not a zips PR.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we weren't seeing it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, yeah, so that we will okay, yeah, Dara, Emma, you had reviewed that, and it looks like a bunch of your comments have been addressed, and then yeah, the post review fixes are also in. So that Dara, Emma, if you can
Yes, I will re-review that.
Great. Let's move on to the next update. Shield Labs and ECC for Crosslink.
Okay, yes, I can give an update on Shielded Labs implementation. So we are close to wrapping up our milestone 3. So this is the one that is running both consensus protocols and linking them together. And like we have a test case that, demonstrates that finality prevents nodes from rolling back past the final proof of work block. So that's awesome. To finish the milestone, we need to update some tech docs that's on my plate. And hopefully we can get those rendered. So my hope is to put them all in the Zebra book, but it's our fork of the Zebra book, and then get that rendered at a public URL.
The Zebra book, not the TFL book.
Yes, the Zebra book, which is...
Oh, because it's documenting the fork. Okay.
Yep. And we are making a bunch of quick prototyping decisions. And so that book will, we're going to move our ADRs, architectural design records, into that book as an appendix and stuff like that. So it should be the one-stop shop for the Zebra Crosslink code base to understand its design and code. And then we are going to, let's see, there's that. We're going to make a release and a tag. And then next week, we're doing an in-person for Shielded Labs, and we'll be hosting a workshop. And hopefully by then, we will have made some improvements to the test network. We're sort of grappling with that last I heard. And so if you remember at the last workshop for Milestone 2, we had a main shadowing mode, but the way to join it was really brittle. So once, basically all nodes have to update a config file at the same time to add a node or remove a node. So we're exploring ways to make a more resilient testnet, but with a quick and dirty approach, like whatever we can get working by next week. So hopefully that will be ready. So come to that workshop if you're interested, or if you want to lurk, we'll also have general Q&A and that going on. Yeah, so I think that's our update. Oh, we also, I noticed there's been multiple efforts at using like more like, I don't know if I call these formal analysis tools or formal analysis automation tools. But I noticed multiple efforts. And so we just got everyone together into a call to discuss different people's approaches to modeling crosslink, which is modeling or automating proofs about its properties, which are both super helpful. And I already knew those were helpful as like an assurance for an end product. But one thing that helped me shift my perspective in that meeting was that those are great earlier on as the reference for implementing for software engineers. So we want to kind of pull forward some of that work and like collaborate more actively with all of you who are contributing those things.
Yeah, and to me, there's also the issue that I mean, I've done pencil and paper proofs for the crosslink design, but are those correct?
Right.
If I do the formalization, then I'll be pretty sure they're correct.
Yeah,
it's hard to review proofs.
Yep. Also, another area I'm interested to dig into is, we're discovering there's like design decisions that impact things subtly about the assumptions for crosslink. So, for example, like when is issuance paid out to delegators, and what are the incentives if BFT is stalled for too long, and things like that, where I'm a little bit concerned that we don't want to violate the assumptions of crosslink, or that we're very clear about when the two protocols are sort of influencing each other, which is a really hard problem, but hard and fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's really hard to make sure that the incentives work out after a really extended BFT stall. I mean, it's intended to work out in the short term, but in the sort of medium and longer term, you have to fix whatever problem caused the stall. But the idea is to just give time to do that.
Yeah, so hopefully after this milestone next week, I want to write a blog post about some of the surprises we've come across. That's sort of an overview of the ADRs. Yeah, so that's our update.
Thank you, Nate. Any questions for Nate on crosslink? Awesome.
I just want to say it's really fun having our visualizer, because we can like see the input vectors for test cases, which correlate to the diagrams we're always trying to draw on whiteboards, so we can like visually check, oh yeah, that is what we thought it was. So I love that.
Yeah, I was on that call. It was awesome, except that my phone died about 5 minutes before the end. But what was the last 5 minutes?
Oh, you mean from last Arborist call update?
No, the call about formalization.
Oh,
the next steps, basically.
Yeah, next steps. So Shielded Labs is going to talk to informal systems, and they basically, one of the things they do is consulting, where they rely heavily on Quint, and they're also developing Quint itself. And they have experience with a bunch of different consensus protocols, like Starkware is a big one. So we're going to chat with them to figure out how much engagement we want For the automated proofs, I would like to start looking at those during our next milestone. So by the end of the year, I would hope to, be able to run them and understand them, and see how it matches our implementation. Yeah, I think that's as far as we are currently.
Okay,
But let
cool.
me know if you
Yeah.
have suggestions.
Yeah, that gives me a timeline for when to work on the lean formalization.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. So let's do open announcements, and then we can tackle the agenda item Jason wanted to go over, and then Dara Amos. So any open announcements? Going once. Awesome. Let's move on. Jason, you want to tackle the NU7 discussion?
Yeah, sure. So last week I shared a proposal for Shielded Labs to deliver a smaller, faster version of NU7. It includes the network sustainability mechanism, explicit fees, and then front loads all transaction format changes required for all the currently proposed features. Our goal with this proposal is to sort of help Zcash move towards shipping protocol upgrades more quickly and regularly. Ideally, we'd like to see it happen every 6 months. There were some criticisms that were raised that I'd like to address on today's call. And so I think it might work best if I start by just briefly outlining 3 concerns and then sharing our perspective and then opening it up for discussion. So first off, there was an assumption that introducing a smaller network upgrade would inevitably lead to further delays for ZSAs. We don't believe that's necessarily the case. The timeline for NU7 activation has already shifted multiple times, and the current target for June 2026 is still considered optimistic and realistically may slip again. So introducing a smaller network upgrade sooner reduces the risk of stalling protocol development behind a single delayed release. It also, I believe, eases pressure on the core engineering teams by addressing this current bottleneck and enabling certain features to be released independently. And additionally, it helps avoid a situation where delays to one feature compound delays across the entire upgrade. So second, there's an assumption that every network upgrade causes the ecosystem to break, particularly related to things like transaction format changes or updates to the consensus branch ID. The truth is, some disruption is impossible to avoid, and it's relatively common for some exchanges or wallet partners to complete updates only after their users start to complain and report issues. But overall, we think that we can help improve the process by building relationships with miners, exchanges, wallet partners, understanding requirements on their end, and then working with them to minimize disruption. So we would take ownership and help streamline the process in a way that not only supports this smaller upgrade, but also future protocol upgrades. And really, the same goes for the ECC and the Zcash Foundation. Like Conrado noted, that upgrades add work, including reviewing changes, merging code, running private and public testnets, and preparing for mainnet release. But we believe many of those responsibilities can be taken on by Shielded Labs, and this is really sort of consistent with the spirit of Josh's recent proposal, which encourages contributors to take more ownership over the full network upgrade lifecycle. And then lastly, there were comments suggesting that the NSM and explicit fees don't have enough impact on user experience to justify a network upgrade, and it would be a different situation if a major feature like Crosslink were ready for production. A couple things here. One, we don't think that network upgrades should be prioritized solely based on perceived significance. What the community really needs here, is a predictable cadence of upgrades, where features are included when they're ready. And tying upgrades strictly to specific features risks running into the situation that we're currently with, where there's delays and slowdowns from delivering these user-facing features. But moreover, our motivation for proposing this smaller NU7 is to help accelerate Crosslink. We'll eventually need to go through the full upgrade process for Crosslink, and then doing the smaller upgrade now gives us the opportunity to build relationships, improve coordination, and work through any challenges ahead of time, which will ultimately make that larger effort more efficient. So yeah, I'll stop there, and I see a bunch of people have their hands raised, so why don't we start with their Emma?
Yeah, so I'm kind of opposed to this proposal, and my main concern is I'm sorry that I haven't had time to actually respond to the forum thread, but I'll make my arguments here. I think the main focus of my argument is the last point that you, the last criticism that you made, which is the fact that NSM plus explicit fees does not have a significant impact. It basically doesn't have any impact on user experience, because so the issuance smoothing part of NSM will be deferred to I believe it's the next halving anyway, and so it basically doesn't matter. It's unobservable.
Not the next halving. It would be deferred to the midpoint.
Sorry.
So essentially a year from November.
Right, a year from November. So unless NU7 is delayed until after a year from November, so November 2026, there will be no impact of delaying NSM issuance smoothing to NU7. So the fee components of the NSM, so the requirement to send 60% of issuance fees to remove those from circulation. So that the impact of that is calculated in ZIP, and that is really a very long-term improvement to the economics. It's not going to, it objectively isn't going to have a significant impact in the short term, and the point of it isn't in the short term. So it's not just that it's a matter of opinion whether it will have a short-term impact. It just won't. And explicit fees is a cleanup. It's not going to have much of an impact unless a user is using a wallet that calculates a fee incorrectly. That's the biggest impact it has. So yeah, the positive benefits of sort of making these changes quicker are just not very significant. Also, there are risks. So, I mean, it might not be very visible, but sort of all of our planning and thinking and design has been based on the assumption that all of these features will activate at the same time. I think it is actually extremely risky to try to make transaction format changes in advance of the features that they're supposed to be providing a format for. Because if you get it wrong, then you just have to change it again. And you end up with a transaction version that is basically unusable. And that has an overhead in the protocol documentation, specifications, implementations that sort of can't easily be removed. I think it will be much better to wait to make those format changes until everything has been finalized in the actual NU7 features that need them.
I just wanted to respond to a few of those points before we get to Nate, if you don't mind. First off,
Yeah.
In what you were saying about the NSM, one thing that you glossed over is the fact that ZIP 233 enables this new burning mechanism, right? So there are certain economics that would be available to users that otherwise wouldn't. Second is, I think, like, I understand your concerns about the risks associated with this, but one of the things that this really achieves is it forces us to get on a better network upgrade schedule, right? Because what we're currently doing, where we just have it based on features and then there's multiple delays, is kind of hurting Zcash's reputation, and it's hurting our reputations, and it's hurting users. So having more frequent network upgrades on a schedule would probably benefit things going forward. There was a third thing that I wanted to say, and that's, I agree with the point that you made about transaction format changes coming before features. There is that risk that, you know, it gets wrong in the implementation and then you have to redo it. So yeah, that point is noted.
Okay. I mean, I just think that it's been very clear for a long time that the feature that Zcash, the Zcash community wants us to focus on is CSAs. And yes, honestly, NU7 is too big an upgrade. It probably should have been just CSAs. Because that's taken a long time to get in. So there is this perception that it's just slipping and slipping. There are good reasons why it's taken a long time to get in. And it's a huge feature that changes a lot of the cryptography, needs a high degree of attention to review. And I mean, yes, there might have been errors in prioritization. I don't think that kind of inserting yet another upgrade, because remember we inserted NU 6.1, and that was based on a governance decision by the community. Inserting yet another upgrade before what is effectively NU 7, which is the upgrade that activates CSAs, because everyone's going to think of that as NU 7. What you're effectively doing is inserting an NU 6.2 that no one's really asked for. I mean, explicit fees were going in because they were we were doing a format change anyway, and explicit fees were always going to get into whatever the next format change was. There isn't enough rationale to do them on their own as a network upgrade. That's why we haven't done a mini upgrade. And I mean, to me, Shielded Labs has, you seem to be very, very keen to get the NSM in, and I don't see that it's what the community is asking for. But why is the NSM so important when it's going to make such a small economic difference?
Nate, do you want to respond?
Yes. Yeah. So I have a few things. The big picture thing is that, well, yeah, zooming out to the big picture, I think it is a mistake for this community to associate the excitement and newsworthiness and celebratory nature of features with network upgrades, right? Because like it's always the case that when you're developing code, sometimes like you need to fix some stuff and it's kind of boring to users, and so you need an update to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a mistake for we've made this mistake in the past, and I've been prone to it, where it's like, oh, if we're going to do a network upgrade, it has to have a big splashy thing that people want. And I think that's a mistake. I think upgrades should be just for engineering decisions, and the big splashy thing needs to be events that users can like interact with, right? So I don't think when something activates in the protocol, it's very interesting. I think it's interesting when users have something like in their hand that they can use to do something. That's when that's when it's news, right? So like a counterexample is the Ethereum merge was a massive, massive update. It took like multiple years and it had 0 user visible effects when it happened. Nothing happened, but everyone celebrated, right? Because it's showing this difference between like celebration and the community caring about something versus what does it enable, like what features does it have or what things is it fixing. I feel like those should be decoupled.
I kind of don't.
Before
I kind of don't.
Before you reply,
sorry.
can we let
Yes, carry on.
some others
Yes,
go?
please.
Yeah. So the next thing is that for the NSM, from my perspective, it's not so much that the NSM is special or exciting or good, even though I think it is special, exciting, and good. But like compared to other potential changes or even other changes of the same order of complexity, which is pretty low, that's not why I personally think we should ship it soon. I think we should ship protocol features as soon as they are ready without entangling them with other features. Because so there's a trade-off. Dara, I see your thumbs down. There's a trade-off. One trade-off is like one world is there's a bunch of separate network upgrades. They're each disruptive. Each one introduces a new kind of thing, and it's disruptive. So the downside might be that the ecosystem it gets like too disrupted over time and like loses coherence or something or network effect. The upside is people can begin learning and using the new functionality in the protocol sooner. So like network upgrade, so NSM enables burning. What will people do with that? We don't know. I have some ideas. When can they do that? The difference is, could they do it at 6.2 or do they have to wait like a year and a half? I mean, the delta might be a year, or even if it's 6 months, it's just more time where people can experiment and learn, including us. So like if a protocol change is disruptive to the ecosystem, who does it disrupt? What's the issue with it? What do they need to do to fix it? So those are the trade-offs for that approach. The other approach of let's package everything together to make a huge splashy update, and let's make sure all of the pieces don't disrupt each other, means whenever a new piece arrives that people think is a priority, that means we have to delay the release in order to incorporate this new feature into everything. That's what's been happening, right? So first it was ZSAs, and now first it was ZSAs, and then we have been glomming on all kinds of changes. And each one requires review and developers to understand what it is and so forth. And
wait, what changes have we been glomming on? I'm only aware of quantum resilience.
Quantum resilience would be one. Zcash deprecation would be another.
But wait, no. Zcash deprecation is required for ZSAs.
But it wasn't.
And so if we do an AU 6.2, hang on.
It was asserted as a requirement for ZSAs at the very outset.
Yes.
Really? Like a
yes,
couple
absolutely.
years ago when
yes.
the zips were approaching maturity?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, hold on a second. There was some scope creep, right? Because you're right, quantum resilience was one of them, but there were some additional things that were also added on. And one, with quantum resilience, there hasn't been any discussion, there hasn't been a zip, but it's sort of spoke about as it's being included as part of NU7.
Well,
second, the other things that
is
hold on,
to me, to my mind, it's a security requirement, but carry on.
Okay. Yeah, the other things were like the ongoing lockbox disbursement, the key rotation for consensus keys were two other things that weren't originally, the scope of NU7 was originally defined late in
memo bundles. Because that's
No,
an example
memo
of-
bundles were in the
scope,
first.
yeah.
But
Memo bundles were in the original lineup for NU7.
for NU7, but is it something users have been like? I feel like there's moving goalposts where, oh, it has to be important enough. It either has to be important enough for users to specifically want it and demand it, or it needs to ride on the coattails of something that is, which means that so I'm just saying the trade-offs are, if the good thing is if all of these things work well, there's just sort of one disruption to the ecosystem. If all of the integrations work, the disruption is not too disruptive. And then all of these features and functionality become available together, and it's a big noteworthy event. The
Point of order.
downside is yeah.
Can we
Yeah.
please take some shorter turns, because we're going on like 10 minutes a person speaking here, and I would really like for Arya and myself and Strad to be able to make some points.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. The
course.
downside are sorry, I lost my train of thought. Downsides are lots of risk, delaying all of the features except for the slowest one to be ready. And I still also believe the risk to disrupting the ecosystem is actually the same or larger than doing multiple updates. But that's what I'm.
Okay, Arya next.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
So from my perspective, it seems that all of the risks and dangers can be worked around. It's just a matter of how long is it going to take and how much effort are we going to have to put in. And I don't think that having the NSM deployed a little bit earlier is worth all the extra effort that we'd have to invest in making it happen. I do also think it's going to push status A's out. So I don't think this is a good idea for NU7, but I do think this is bringing up a good point for future network upgrades. I see that someone mentioned in the chat, we used to have regularly scheduled network upgrades. I think we should go back to that, and we should have more incremental network upgrades, ideally a more flexible transaction format. I do see that we globbed on a bunch of things into NU7 that were not planned at the very outset, but that we've realized we needed as we went on specifying. I think Zebra and the new stack will help a lot with making incremental network upgrades possible or practical. But we really just got to get through Zcash deprecation at this point, because we've invested so much into it. We're so far down this road that we've passed sort of a soft point of no return. And all of this discussion is valuable for what we do going forward after NU7. Yeah, that's my perspective.
Okay, I have a few different points here. I will try to be quick. The first one is that I'm very concerned about the proposal to deploy all of the transaction format changes as part of this proposed upgrade. So the main reason that we have not wanted to, or that we have glommed stuff on to NU7, is because transaction format changes are currently highly disruptive to the ecosystem. They cause lots of things to break. I would love it if we could make transaction format changes without them breaking so much of the ecosystem, but that requires implementations of parsing libraries in lots of different languages and having those parsing libraries broadly adopted. That would be something worth doing. Now, in particular, the integration of memo bundles, I think, makes the proposal that that Jason has made extremely challenging to to implement. And that honestly, if we're going to, like, I would rather see the transaction format break twice um, than have the changes for memo bundles included in this proposal, and frankly the changes for all of the rest of the format changes. If we're really, if you want to make this change, the changes required to Zcash D for all of the rest of the transaction format changes are simply too dangerous to include along with the NSM format changes. The NSM format changes are relatively trivial. They are hopefully almost ignorable. Like we shouldn't push forward the rest of the transaction format changes because they just do they change way too much about how so much of the protocol operates. So it's you know, I'm not greatly in favor of inserting another network upgrade, but at least that won't mean like months of work buried into Zcash D to actually get all the rest of the transaction format changes, because it is months of work if you want to do everything in the transaction format changes that are currently scheduled for NU7 in Zcash D.
Okay. Can I just respond to that piece real quick? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the reason that I put that into the proposal was based off the conversation I had with you, where it almost seemed like it would be a deal breaker to do otherwise, right? Because we didn't want to have multiple transaction format changes. If you want us to remove that from the proposal and just do the necessary ones for the NSM, then that's fine. I mean, that benefits us and it makes it simpler to execute.
So I don't think it's a good idea to have multiple transaction format changes, but I think that it's a better idea to do that than it is to try to implement the memo bundle changes and maintain the the inviolability of the network. The other thing that I wanted to bring up related to this is timing. So we are currently sprinting to try to get to where we can have the NU 6.1 mainnet activation height set. We then, there's a 16-week lead window for end of service halts for each release that we make. So the end of service halt for the NU 6.1 supporting Zcash D and Zebra releases will extend, into next year. And there cannot be a network upgrade before all Zcash D and Zebra nodes that have prior versions of the consensus rules have EOS halted. So there's really not I don't see any possibility for this network upgrade that you're proposing to activate before essentially the end of Q1 of 2026. And then then that's really running up quite close to the time that we want to be have published NU7 supporting Zebra, an NU7 supporting Zebra release. So this then means that we're going to have two transaction format bumps within a couple of months of one another, or a few months of one another. Well, 4 if we do the full 16-week deprecation window that we have consistently planned for NU7. So I think that I'm
Chris,
not.
I want to.
Yeah,
this is correct.
How confident are you that NU7 timeline is attainable?
I mean, we're merging the NU7 PRs. We merged some of it into Halo. We merged some of it into Orchard. There's a lot to review still, but it's actually on our plate to do in the near future, which it hasn't been able to because we've been so focused on Zcash D deprecation, timeline, and so on. I mean, I'm almost certain that this proposal would slow down the deployment of CSA significantly.
Right. Well, the way in the width. So again, what Jason is proposing is for Shielded Labs to take on all responsibility for this network upgrade, which includes wallet updates and so forth. So in theory, there is only well, it does put, for us to be able to keep the wallets that we maintain working across this network upgrade boundary, we will have to review the changes to the wallet backends that are required. So it does mean that it does put that additional work onto the ecosystem. That being said, that's work that's shared with the rest of what we've called NU7. So that's okay, I guess. I think that in terms of the transaction format changes, it's pretty important that one possibility that occurs to me here is that if this proposed network upgrade activates, but nobody on the network except those who are wanting to do burns, if nobody uses that V6 transaction format, then it's perhaps less impactful. It does mean that, essentially that transaction format would only be supported in consensus, and people would have to write their own software if they wanted to otherwise interact with those transactions. I guess that's fine.
It's not fine in my view.
It's not great, but I can say that Zashi and Zale will probably not eagerly update to support that interim transaction format for transaction construction. They'll of course have to be able to parse it and integrate its their information into the wallet. But that's mostly a UI and display kind of issue. So if we don't change wallets to broadly construct V6 transactions with this narrower view of V6, then maybe that's okay. And maybe it's slightly less disruptive to the ecosystem. And
it means that you're not getting the benefit of the explicit fees. So for burns,
that's okay. That I don't consider that a blocker in any sense. Like the explicit fees benefits are they're subtle, and they won't be fully realized anyway, because they won't be fully realized until V5 transactions are no longer accepted by the network, and that's going to be quite a while, because there's been no proposal to deprecate V5 transactions for NU7. Okay, yeah, I should end my my period here because I've been doing the same thing. I think Strad is next. Strad, you have your hand up? Are you there? Okay, back to Nate then, I guess. No, we cannot hear you.
How about now?
Yes, you're very quiet, but we can hear you.
Okay, that will have to do. Okay, it's been like 25 minutes since I raised my hand, so I can't exactly remember what I raised it for. I was the one who posted in the chat about the fact that, like, when either I forget if it was Jason or Nate talking at the time, I raised the point that we tried 6-month upgrade periods in the past and did not succeed at maintaining that rate. In particular, I've got a post I made back in 2023 in the forum where I did the various calculations to just see, like, what was our actual sort of effective network upgrade rate in the past. And at the time, we had effectively been managing to get out around 1 upgrade a year. Then sandblasting happened, and there was an interval of several years where we didn't get any network upgrades out because for various reasons, we were unable to devote time to anything other than sandblasting mitigations. But prior to that, if you look at the numbers on that, I can't screenshot at the moment, but if someone else wants to, that page, you can see in the table there that there were a couple of upgrades that we were able to do in around about half a year or slightly under. But those were either upgrades that we were able to parallelize because the upgrade before was very small, namely Overwinter, or upgrades that were themselves very cut down and restrained, which was like Heartwood and Canopy. They were very small upgrades. The moment we got into something that was of any particular size, the upgrade took well over a year to get through. So getting to given past experience, it makes sense that getting upgrades out and in terms of the speed at which the network is able to get, the ecosystem is able to get through the network upgrade process does take like about a year at that time. What I was asking about in the question was, what if we're continuing to propose trying to get back to that every 6 months target, which was the target at that time, and we were consistently failing to hit that target, what is changing? What is being proposed to be done differently this time? That means we won't just do the same thing again and continue to miss those targets.
I have a direct response about where that target came from. I worked that out with another person who was no longer at ECC, and I kind of felt very pressured to reduce that as much as possible. And I think that we just made a mistake, and that 6 months is just not under any circumstances feasible unless we were to have some very significant design changes, as well as procedure changes in how it's both transaction format changes and sort of network upgrades themselves work. So that would require a lot of preparation. It can't be done now. So 6 months
I would very much love to decrease the frequency here, but any proposal that's attempting to decrease the frequency has to reckon with the fact that we have tried this in the past and not succeeded. And so we need to figure out how to adjust the way that either network upgrades go out or how coordination goes out to enable getting upgrades out of their frequency without treading on each other's toes and without treading on, like, interfering with and delaying the longer upgrade process, the things that take more time to upgrade.
Nate, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I'll lower my hand. I have more things I could say, but
okay.
And just to jump in for 1 second before we go to Nate, we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to be sure we're respecting everybody's time. So Nate, you want to jump in, and then if there's any other quick comments to wrap this up?
Yes. Okay, I'll try to be quick. I think the best way to say it, though, is just that I have a strong concern that if improvements to the protocol take a long time to ship, that is like one of the key metrics. I know it's very hand wavy and abstract, but it's one of the key metrics about how rapidly Zcash can progress. So I asked ChatGPT about the median time between upgrades for Ethereum, and I lost it. But I'll share that link, and it is something like half a year or something. And my question is, how could Ethereum, which has a much larger ecosystem, make changes that quickly? And it's just—
that's a question that we would need to spend weeks answering.
Yeah. But I think it's an important question for us to think about. The last piece I wanted to say is, in terms of if a protocol change, so a protocol change activates. Now, who uses it? Well, developers need to ensure that the software they make that could benefit from it is updated to use it. I think very few of those developers will do that for Zcash before an upgrade happens. Like, I think just the shielded wallets, but probably not like Gemini or Coinbase or block explorers or many other vendors. And I think they only begin changing things when they notice, and many don't notice until an upgrade happens. And then they have their own pain and learning curve, and it might take a long time. And one difference I notice is it often seems like we want to provide all of the tools for everyone, but I also think sometimes these businesses should be improving their own tools. And they won't do that until they need to because their customers require it and they notice. So I just want to say earlier, that's why I believe getting things out the door earlier, even if there's low usage, is important, because it has to be activated for a while before it's actually usable by users. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, Strad made the point in the chat that actually the Ethereum consensus layer hard forks is around once a year. So yeah, once a year is feasible. I don't think for Zcash at least 6 months is.
Do you want to say anything in closing, Jason, before we wrap up?
I mean, my biggest fear, and the reason that we're bringing this up, is that the timeline continues to slip and we just keep making the same mistakes over and over. Current process isn't working. I think we need to do something to change it. And I mean, we're strongly moving forward we're strongly considering moving forward with this proposal. So, I mean, I'd like to keep the conversation going.
I mean, it's kind of up to the node implementers, unless Shielded Labs wants to fork and kind of try and convince people to run a competing node implementation. But to me, doing that without the cooperation of ECC and ZF is just creating a whole bunch of drama that we don't need, and that will sort of slow things down. So yeah, I mean, I think I will be very strongly opposed to kind of making anticipatory format changes beyond those that we've already planned. So the V6 transaction format changes do include some anticipation of changes for asset swaps. So basically, if you also anticipate NU7, then you've got 2 layers of anticipation. That's another point that I didn't have time to make before. And we shouldn't do that. And then I also think that you're underestimating the cost of making 2 format changes. So both options are bad. Making 2 format changes is bad. Making anticipatory format changes to the extent that would be needed is bad. So I just think it's a non-starter to me.
Okay, well, we are unfortunately at time. And Dara, Emma, apologies we didn't get to your subject. Hopefully we can get to that next time or via the forum. Did you want to say something, Nate?
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to point out that I really appreciate everyone's effort on this current plan, because it is like I know a lot of thought has gone into it. You all have a lot of experience and are noticing many things I'm not noticing. So I just wanted to express appreciation for all of that, and the amount of collaboration is amazing. So I don't want any of this to, be a downer. I just want to explore
I think maybe
things, or should we?
I think maybe if this proposal had been made 6 months ago, then it might have got a bit better reception, because it's kind of too late now. We're too far down the road.
We already had defined NU7 6 months ago. Like really, in principle, I like this. I like this proposal from a ecosystem decentralization perspective. I really think that we need to, as a community, address the problem of support libraries, because really, I would love it for us to be able to make transaction format changes without them being so incredibly disruptive. No one is taking on that work. ECC is not in a position to take on that work. I don't know how we can get that work done, but like it would be, I want as little additional work done in Zcash D as possible if Shield Labs is intent on going forward with this proposal. And I would really wish that we could instead work towards making changes like this one that would be a minimal NSM more possible, so that we don't face this this kind of problem continuously.
I mean, I think that deprecating Zcash D as soon as possible, which is the opposite of this proposal, will help a lot, because then we'll have a modern node implementation written in memory-safe language with so kind of an architecture that has been designed for Zcash rather than just kind of thrown together in 2009. Yeah, that will make so much difference, and I think the faster we can get there, the better. And I don't think this proposal gets us there faster. I think it gets us there slower, significantly slower.
Well, thank you again, everybody, for awesome call and great collaboration, and really appreciate everybody's updates and efforts. And let's keep these conversations going on the forum and Discord and elsewhere, and then pick up next Arborist call. So thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And I will summarize my arguments on the forum as well.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.